Now, I know this is not just me, but have you recently noticed your shopping cart becoming less full even though you just paid the same amount you would have from your full basket cart last year? Yeah, I know that goes the same for all of you, and so we all have realized nowadays that goods and services are just becoming more and more expensive, not just in one country, but in other states and nations all over the world too. From oil price hikes to increasing prices of food and grocery items, we know we're all in this economic reality. We don't exactly know how to reverse this current conundrum, but we sure can study how and why this is happening. Luxury Wire curates these top 10 reasons why things are getting so expensive. At least then, we'd know how to keep our finances afloat in response to knowing the reasons why and to endure this real-world crisis. Here at Luxury Wire, we get to reveal all things finance and money, and that includes the root of why commodity prices are spiking up real fast. Welcome back to our channel, and make sure that you're updated with our latest content by hitting that subscribe and bell button down below. Now let's start off the list with one primordial cause: inflation. Inflation is the increase in the price of goods, services, and practically all kinds of stuff that you purchase over a period of time, from laundry services, transportation fares, credit card bills, and airline tickets. Aside from the increase in prices, inflation also refers to the depreciating value of money. Most countries nowadays are experiencing inflation, which means that there will be a domino effect happening. Increased costs of living because of increased prices of even the basic necessities like food and clothing. You can say that it has a ripple effect as well, since inflation affects everything in the circle of economic activity. That is one of the reasons why a $2 item that you purchased last year is now at $4, yet with the same quality and quantity of that certain good. Number 2 is national debt. Hearing the word debt might be a bit stressful, and governments in many parts of the world can also relate to that. National debt affects all of us, and I mean every constituent in a country. You did not ask the president or the prime minister to apply for a loan or borrow money, right? But yes, unfortunately, even if you didn't have anything to do about it, you are still affected by your country's national debt. Talk about the domino effect again, eh? Well, national debt does not affect you directly, but there is a spiral effect that shows subtly in 3 ways. First, national debt can induce the government to increase taxes and use those taxes to repay the debt. It sounds fair, but it's not. Governments increase corporate taxes, which leads to organizations, companies, and establishments to pay increased taxes than usual, that is, to recover their loss. Therefore, you will have no choice but to increase the price of their goods and services, and that's where the spiral effect starts affecting you. Secondly, the government will try to print more money. And if you've been tuning into our videos, you would know that that's not the best idea. When the government prints more money, it means that there will be too much money circulating, and when there is too much money circulating, its value will not be that valuable anymore. With this, there will be too much money circulating around for the fewer quantities of goods, and currencies end up being worthless of itself, which leads to prices of goods getting higher. Third, the government might take the hard way out on this and stay default on the debt. But this is not a good idea either, and it might actually be worse since this results in drastic economic effects. The country would not be able to borrow money anymore, but if it does, it will repay with a higher interest rate, and then back to increased taxes and more money in circulation. Number 3, rising wages. You might wonder, what? How does rising wages affect the way things are getting so expensive? Well, we all get more money to spend on stuff, and that's interesting since that is also the source of inflation. Another fascinating thing, though, is that in some countries, an increase in the price of goods is not always bad. Some would call it mild inflation, and it is oftentimes seen as a sign of a progressing economy. High wages mean more purchasing power, and it also leads to increase in demand. With this, the manufacturer of a supplier would notice this trend, therefore increasing the prices of their goods or services to match the existing trend. As a result, there will be more jobs, more money, and the wheel of inflation will just continue to spin around. And number 4, government regulation. Inflation or sudden increase in prices are sometimes caused by government laws and regulations. For example, the government decides to impose a new tariff on importers and exporters, making it expensive to move the goods in and out of the country. Since higher tariff rates cause importers to spend more, they will also increase the price of their goods and services, and the consumers who buy from these importers will notice a price change. They will still purchase, but then they will be selling it to you at a higher price, and that's where inflation subtly creeps into the economy caused by government regulation. Number 5. Shrinkflation. Now, shrinkflation does not technically affect the increased prices of commodities, but rather it affects its quantity. Shrinkflation refers to how the quantity of the product is reduced but still selling it at the same price. Mostly, this is applicable to the food and beverage industry. And you might think, shouldn't that process be illegal? It is not. Did you know that companies are required to state the size, weight, and the quality of a product on its packaging? Yes, they do, and most times we just don't check them out. Manufacturers are afraid that a change in the price of their products might drive away their clients and opt to go to a competitor, so this is one way that they would consider doing it. So instead of paying at a higher price, you pay the same amount, yet with a slightly reduced quantity. But then you will have to pay double or more if you want to consume more of that product or good. Shrinkflation may also be caused by an increase in the cost of production, which is a more complicated factor in the market competition. And if you're interested and want to learn more, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell button to be updated on more finance content here at Luxury Wire. Are you keeping up so far? What factor are you most affected by? We have just started with the first half, and we hope you stick around for more, and if you do, you're in for a lot of knowledge and a bunch of surprises. Number 6 on the list is expanded money supply. We take a quick takeaway on this, and now we'll learn more. Printing more money establishes an expanded money supply, which means that the country is printing more money compared to what its economic growth can handle. Thus, in economic terms, the money supply in circulation should always match with its economic output. Take, for example, a bidding auction for racehorses. More than 100 people are in the bid for the best and fastest horse in the roster. The first bidder bids $1 million, the number peaks up to a ballooning bid of $50 million, and during the start of the auction, $1 million worth of money is high, but its value spirals down as there are more bidders, and the $50 million did make the value of $1 million less, right? That is how printing more money can affect the value of money itself and eventually affect the prices of goods and services in a certain country. Number 7. Hoarding. Hoarding is wherein an individual hides a specific product or good and does not reveal or release them to the public unless the demand for that certain good becomes unbearable. It's like during the lockdowns or the peak of the pandemic where someone hoards face masks and only decides to release them to the public when everyone in the world is in dire need. When a product becomes scarce as a result of hoarding, the demand for that good or product simultaneously increases. Thus, when the hoarder decides to release the product to the masses, the public will be willing to pay more than its original worth. Hoarding is a dishonest act, but this is usually employed by producers and middlemen, creating an excess of demand. The hoarders jump into the demand, leading to inflation. Have you ever thought that scarcity is deliberately caused by a manufacturer? You could certainly be right, but unlike shrinkflation, hoarding is illegal, and this would result in no good for someone who gets caught in the act. Number 8. Change in the exchange rate. This is another factor to do with why things are getting so expensive nowadays, and here it is. The foreign exchange market is a place where currencies can be used to buy other currencies, or a place where you can use your money to purchase a different type of money. This exchange will be based on the value of the currencies involved. For instance, if a dollar dips against the euro, this means you can buy more items with 40 euro that you can buy with $40. Are you still wondering how this affects the price of commodities in your country? Remember how the government regulations work with regards to this? We are now living in a global market wherein a daily number of goods are imported from other countries. And so if the dollar currency dips against the currency of another country exporting to us, then this results in us paying more since the dollar has lesser purchasing power when faced side by side with another currency. You guessed it right, it would only be a matter of time before this becomes a full-blown inflation. Number 9. Cost push inflation. This reflects the fact that we have mentioned at the start of this video. If a producer has to spend more to deliver their goods to the consumer, then the consumer shall pay more for that product. But unfortunately, nature can directly affect cost push inflation. For instance, you own a company that specializes in producing paper. But instead of owning the trees used to produce paper, which is the most important material for your production, you will decide to negotiate with a company that specializes in that area. Unluckily, this company suffers a major problem where the trees are struck down by a typhoon. Back to how the domino effect enters the picture, major suppliers will be affected by this, meaning that the industry can only provide a fraction of the good to the producer or to companies like yours, and since supply is limited, it will be sold to you at a much higher price. On your end, you would want to maximize your profit, so therefore you will decide to mark up the price of a ream of bond paper by a few dollars, and there you go, inflation is again in the picture. At number 10, demand pull. Since the post-pandemic era, there has been a visible rise in the demand, but supply has remained mostly the same or even more unfortunate. It's failed to keep up with the growing demand. I'll give you another illustration. For instance, the demand in gas has increased since more people are traveling again or using their cars again. This results in oil price hikes as well as higher prices for traveling tickets and hotel accommodations. In simple terms, more people are buying and purchasing, thus goods and services in circulation would not be enough for all of us consumers. In turn, prices are increased and the available goods will only be sold to people who can afford them. And that's it for today's video on why things are getting so drastically expensive. I can't stress how stressful that can be at times, and I know you feel that too. Be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe here at Luxury Wire. And if you like this video, you might also be interested in other content we have for you. Thank you for tuning into our channel, and until then, I'll see you next time.